From WHYY and Billy Penn, it is Hittin season. Hey there, podcast pals. I'm John Stolnis from The Good Fight and Billy Penn. You can follow me on Twitter at John Stolnis. Coming up, the position players are starting to arrive in Clearwater. Bryce Harper makes his triumphant entry into spring training and talks a lot about playing first base and contract extension. And we're going to find a similar theme here with a lot of these players as they're reporting to camp. A lot of storylines that we've already talked about a lot during the course of the winter. So the beat writers are going to have an interesting time trying to find some new angles, just as we are talking about the Phillies. But more and more players are starting to show up. So we're going to talk about the first few days. And joining me to talk about it, Justin Klugh and Liz Roscher. Of course, Liz Roscher from Yahoo Sports. Follow her on Twitter at Liz Roscher. Hello, Liz. How was your weekend? How are you?
Well, I'll admit I've been better. The Brewers tweeted out a video of Rhys Hoskins, and it hurt me. I'm in pain. I'm in mourning. I'm upset.
Yeah.
It wasn't even the Brewers. It was John Clark. It was John Clark who tweeted it out.
Yeah.
It's just,
what's John doing? How's that helping us, John?
He's taking a break from his busy work at the airport, I guess, where he lives all the time. I don't know what else he does when he's not doing that, but it right now he's doing that and breaking my heart. So, thanks, John.
Well, that's all part of the spring training game is breaking hearts left and right here, watching former players, beloved players, go play for not a hated rival in the Brewers, but somebody else anyway.
Another team, and that's enough.
That's enough for when it comes to Rhys Hoskins, that's for sure. Justin Klugh from Baseball Prospectus. Follow him on Twitter at Justin_Klugh. Justin, what's going on with you, buddy?
Friday afternoon, Elizabeth and I recorded the regular episode of this show. Mm-hmm. And then right when we finished, the news that the Phillies had signed Whit Merrifield broke. And we jumped back on, recorded a quick epilogue, just kind of zipping that up, talking about who he is and everything. And ended the show and just, posted the episode and everything. And in the ensuing 48 hours, this deal became the most important deal that the Philadelphia Phillies have ever completed.
Yep.
And it went, and not only that, it ripple affected just out into the city, basically ruining or completing the lives of everyone who learned about it. A deal that Whit Merrifield probably didn't think about as much as the crowd's reaction to Whit Merrifield's deal. A deal that Dave Dombrowski probably worked out between beach volleyball games and then didn't think about again after he set up the date and time for the physicals. I guess we all know that this is just the product of not having a lot to react to throughout the winter. Mm-hmm. But that was a behavioral studies exercise that went on just for far too long. It was like 9:30 on a Friday night. People are still debating the merits of a 1-year deal for a bench player on the Philadelphia Phillies. I don't know. I can't say I've never seen anything like it. It's just more that
you have.
I was staggered. I was a little staggered and confused at the bigness of the reaction.
Yeah,
to
the emergency Whit Merrifield podcasts were a little much, but I mean, again, everybody just bloodthirsty for news about this baseball team. Just because bring me something new. We must have something fresh, and not some player who may never see the major leagues. He signed to a minor league deal, and maybe if the stars align, you get yourself a Jeff Hoffman. No, this is a player we've heard of before who didn't play on the team last year. And yeah, that's the thing with the Whit Merrifields. Like when we were talking about the possibility of Whit Merrifield, his name had come up in rumors it's especially grown even more over the last couple of weeks. He had Bowden write an article saying he thought the Phillies he thought that was the best fit for him. Not that he'd heard Whit Merrifield was close to signing, just mindless speculation that he thought Whit Merrifield would be a good fit with the Phillies. And
it makes me angry that the Phillies proved him right. He should never be correct in anything, and the Phillies made him look good for that. I'm angry about it.
Bowden was out there today talking about how, hey, if Zach Wheeler's camp gets greedy, then the Phillies could just grab Blake Snell and have all three of them, and then just have Blake Snell for if he gets greedy. That's his actual words. If his camp gets greedy.
What? How did That doesn't even make sense together. Like, how does I love it? A guy who's gotten Cy Young votes every year he's been here, who's done nothing but produce and show up in big moments. What if this guy gets greedy?
Yeah.
Like, what does that even mean? How, unless he's asking for like Shohei Ohtani money.
Mm-hmm.
There's no
$50
such
million
thing as
a year.
greedy.
I mean, what Zach Wheeler wants. Let's be honest with you here. $50 million a year, plus a small country named after him. That's what Zach Wheeler wants right now.
This is after there was like a profile about Wheeler, about the extension written, where he does nothing but gush over his life in Philadelphia and how much he likes it here and how ownership has their back. And like, this is... And giving every indication that, like, yeah, you know, at the moment you don't seem to really have to worry about this being an issue. Everybody seems like they want the same thing, and you know, time will go by and they'll work it out. You know, we don't know what's going to happen, but as far as negotiations go, seems like a good place to be. And then Jim Bowden comes in and says, "Now, hang on a second." I know baseball.
Unless
players.
Those money grubbers want, Back
to Merrifield, though.
I thought you guys covered it pretty well on the last podcast. I'll just throw in my 2 cents in that. He's coming in here to replace Christian Pache, essentially. Like people are thinking, but let's take bats for Jake Cave. I don't see that. You know, Jake Cave is the left-handed guy off the bench. It's not Whit Merrifield's a right-handed hitter, so if anything, he's taking some at-bats away from Christian Pache, or maybe taking up a roster spot of Christian Pache, not Jake Cave. So maybe it does mean an at-bat or two less for Jake Cave, but Jake Cave is typically going to be against a right-handed pitcher, in which case you want Whit Merrifield batting against lefties moving forward. But that's beside the point. What you're getting here is what you hoped you were getting from Josh Harrison when you signed him a couple of years ago. And I think Whit Merrifield is at this point in his career still a better player than Josh Harrison was when he came to Philadelphia. We have to hope so, because Josh Harrison was, of course, a disaster when he came to Philadelphia. But Whit Merrifield, that's what he's designed to be here. And if he couldn't land a starting job someplace else, then that should tell you the kind of player that he is right now. I think it's a fine signing, right? It's a no harm, no foul signing. If it works out, then great. He might provide Bryson Stott a few days off against a tough lefty pitcher, especially if Stott gets into a slump. You can play him out in left field or platoon him with Marsh a little bit. I still want Marsh to play mostly against lefties, but he gives you that flexibility, which is what Dave Nabrowski said he wants. But Whit Merrifield, and maybe I know the Phillies' thought here is that by not playing every day, by being a guy who plays 2-3 times a week, that'll elevate Whit Merrifield's game. And you'll get first half Whit Merrifield from last year when he made the All-Star team, as opposed to second half Whit Merrifield, which I know you guys talked about as well. He really cratered in the second half of the season, and that playing every day likely was the result of that. That's the Phillies' thinking. Sounds fine in theory, but they did not sign prime 70 stolen base, top of the lineup Whit Merrifield here. He's a decent player. He's going to probably get 400 plate appearances this year. Maybe 400 plate appearances. It's probably more likely, now that I'm thinking about it, 300 to 350. So great. It's a good depth move. But we didn't need to break out the emergency podcasts for this one, kids. We really didn't.
The problem is he was an all-star last year. That's what you then latch on to. And you're like, wow, the Phillies went out and got a 2023 all-star without the context of, yes, he was, well, I guess he was Toronto. He was with Toronto. I hope he's not playing a whole lot of center, honestly. I feel like he
shouldn't play any.
The super utility aspect is not a fair label for him anymore. You know, you want to call him a utility guy, fine. Stick him in left, drop him at second, sure. But yeah, if he's getting exposed a whole lot, then this was a bad plan. But that's not anything the Phillies. That's not their plan. That's not what they've been planning to do. So it's just they added a bench bat. They added the guy that has been the rumored guy, the fabled outfield bench bat all off season long. He's 35 years old. He's not as fast anymore. You've heard his name before, and yeah, he was an all-star last year. That was pretty cool. I don't know, but the logic you just kind of laid out there, that like by playing him in 1 or 2 games a week or at a couple of bats a week, that he's not going to be as exposed and therefore limit the amount of time he has to turn into the second half version of himself from last year. But I mean, aren't guys always saying that it's tough to get in a groove when you're not playing every day? So like that kind of pulls at that thread too. So it's not
there's
like
no
if
right
we limit
answer.
the at-bats, he'll just be his first half self. I just don't think that is the right answer either.
No, all of these are just things that players and coaches, managers say when there's no other explanation. It's just, well,
we signed a bench
half,
player, guys. I don't know what to tell you.
Exactly. It's just like, he'll just be his first half self or his second half self. Like, no. None of it. Baseball and the way that guys hit, there is strategy and there is skill, but a lot of it is magic. These guys are the best guys in the world at figuring out how to make that magic to get the bat to hit the ball. Most mortals don't have it. Like, there's no explanation. He's just we're going to meet a whole new Whit Merrifield this year because he's new every year.
The theory is that the reason he suffered in the second half was because his body wore down from playing every day, and that his body has gotten to the point where he just can't do 150 games starting in the outfield a season. So the thinking is if you play him a little less frequently, you play him more sparingly, you make him a bench guy where he can start 2-3 days a week as opposed to 6 or 7 days a week, that he's fresher the whole season, his body doesn't wear down, and that he gives you the production he gave you in the first half when he was fresher. I don't know if any of that's going to come to pass. Like you said,
if he's starting 6-7 games a week, as we've said, something has happened. Something bad has happened because he shouldn't be playing that much. And that's the problem. I think people are worried that he's going to play that much for some reason. And so everyone is up in arms about it. And I'm over here. I'm just, I guess, not carry that much. I don't care for Whit Merrifield. I also don't care that he's here. Like, we can all let's get turned up about something that does not matter. This does not matter, guys. Not you guys, but like the people losing their brains about it. Let's all pick something small that doesn't matter until we go insane. Let's just pick apart. There's a little tiny fuzzy sticking out on a sweater. Then you pull at it and pull at it and pull at it. And now it's just a giant hole in the middle of your sweater, and you're at a restaurant, and now you don't know what to do.
Liz, is this biographical?
This happened this weekend, I think, didn't it? I think that's a fairly new memory.
Liz was asked to leave a restaurant for yanking on her own sweater. Yeah, it's good that they signed him because they needed a guy who can play multiple positions and has some experience and maybe some speed, and there he is.
Yeah, it's fine. It's a good signing. Good signing. Glad they did it. It felt like they didn't have quite enough outfield depth. This is good outfield depth, and that's about the long and short of it. We'll see how good he is. But and I hope if he's more impactful, then great. But I'm not. We shouldn't expect that, and I think that's kind of where our meeting of the minds is meeting here. So let's talk about something else. Let's talk about Bryce Harper. Bryce Harper arrived in Clearwater again. There's not anything Bryce Harper said upon his arrival on Sunday that was particularly surprising or eyebrow raising. He did say, I thought was interesting, that it was really the Phillies coming to him and saying, we would like you to play first base, as opposed to it being Bryce's decision to play first base. Although I think it really was a conversation, it sounds like. But the way Bryce framed it was that basically he said, I'll play wherever you want me to play. Where do you want me to be? And the team said, we see you long-term as a fit at first base, which again is the smarter baseball move because it keeps Bryce Harper out of right field. It keeps his throwing elbow from having a recurrence of any kind of injury there. You get Kyle Schwarber into the DH spot on a virtually everyday basis. And it did mean you had to say goodbye to Rhys Hoskins. But, you're figuring out the outfield stuff right now with Johan Rojas and Brandon Marsh out there. And, we'll see how that goes. But I thought that was interesting that he kind of framed it more as it being the team's decision, which makes sense. It really kind of should be the team's decision based on all the other things that had to happen after it. And he also is still talking about the contract extension that he says he wants at the end of the next 8 years of his deal. I love Bryce Harper. I love that he wants to play until he's 45.
Guys, what's the deal with the extension, honestly? Like, we talked about this before, and you kind of laugh about it, and it's like, okay, sure, Bryce, whatever. But what's the deal?
Now
like,
he's
back. This is have you ever heard of like these guys with these mega deals? Ohtani, Trout, Judge, Machado, Tatis, Lindor. They got these like big long deals and then show up one day and they're like, I want more. Tack on more years. Have you ever seen that before? I don't think I remember that happening. So like just guess here. Like, what's going on? What's in his head? Does he is an intense person, and I think he genuinely loves it in Philadelphia, and he's having a good time. I can totally see it that he is just like, yeah, no, I want to lock it up forever. But at the same time, couldn't the deal in its current state be forever? Like, why does he's just very sure that he will be playing that much later? And he was like, I want to make sure those times I'm playing are in the place I want to play in. Is that really it?
That's it. He wants to be, I think he just really wants to be the guy that plays forever. He wants to be the guy that can prove, yes, you can do this at a high level forever. Because position players don't typically last that long. Like, you get the occasional pitcher who lasts until he's, 45. Like the occasional Jamie Moyer, the Phil
one
Negro.
Jamie Moyer. There are no occasional Jamie Moyers.
No.
It's just
Nolan
Jamie
Ryan,
Moyer,
Jamie Moyer,
nobody else.
and that's about the end of the list.
Julio Franco, but he wasn't a pitcher, so.
You get some of those guys, but like position players don't. That's just not something that position players do. And he wants to be the guy to prove it because he's already proven he can come back faster from Tommy John surgery than anyone before. He's already a medical marvel. So I think and I think what you guys have said is correct. I think a lot of it is he's comfortable here. He really likes it here. I think he just wants to continually show the city that, no, he's for real. I'm here and I want to be here forever. And it's not just that I want to be here forever. It's that I want to be the greatest. And I want to be the greatest here. And I want to make Philadelphia the greatest and pull Philadelphia along. I also want to be Philadelphia's savior and the father of Philadelphia. I really just want to be everything to Philadelphia. That's Bryce Harper.
Are you guys flattered by this? That Bryce Harper's like, I will be at all of your funerals. That like he is like, I'm so in that I am more in than every single one of you. Like, this is flattering, right?
He's
that
out dieharding the diehards. Yeah.
Would he be doing this
I'm
if he wound up in San Francisco? Would he be doing this?
That's a great question. I don't know. I think there's a special energy with Philadelphia that's connected with him. I'd like to think that anyway. I'd like to think that the Philadelphia has a unique energy. The fact that the atmosphere in the playoffs has been the way it's been, I think, is unique. Everything you hear is that you don't see this kind of atmosphere someplace else. I think that's. He already loved the city beforehand, but that, I think, has really cemented it for him, that he wants to win it all here, and he wants to win it all a lot of times here. I do think he honestly feels like he's an Iron Man, that he can do whatever he wants with his body, and that he can play well into his 40s. I don't understand the urgency. Well, I do understand the urgency. He's at the top of his game right now.
Yeah.
And if he's going to get an extension, it's not going to be with 2 years left on this current deal. Because by that point, he's going to be in his mid-30s, and a decline may be already happening. Maybe it won't be, but it may be happening. Teams typically don't.
Whoa!
What did you do?
What kind of show is this?
What are you doing?
I'm just saying the
Leave that out of the notes. They're
You
gonna
were
get us killed.
didn't write that in the notes.
You were saying that. I'm literally looking up, and I was about to interject at your next pause and say, he was in the MVP conversation this year. As he was recovering from Tommy John surgery, he won his Silver
I'm talking
Slugger.
7 years from now.
Well,
7 years from now.
But you just said the decline may even be happening. I'm just like, what are you talking about?
At that point, when he's 36 years old, 37 years old, do I automatically assume he's still going to be an MVP candidate? No, and you can't. So that's why he's trying to negotiate something now when he is an MVP candidate, and not 6 or 7 years from now when he's only got 1 or 2 years left on this deal. And you might find a guy who, if he's hitting 240 and his power isn't there anymore, he's probably not going to get an extra 5 years on his deal and play till he's in his mid-40s. That's why now is when he's pushing for it, even though he's got 8 years left on this deal. That's my point.
And I'm saying to you, John, that I think we all know at 37 years old, you've never been more powerful. So that's not. I don't think that should be a concern.
And I feel like I'm at my peak power right now. So I do understand what he's saying.
So I get that. I get that too. But man, that just is this just an indication that Philadelphia and Bryce Harper, the intensity levels are such a good match that he wouldn't be doing this if he had landed in like with the Yankees or anything. This is like such a good fit that he will literally play here forever. I don't know. It just feels very singular. It feels very distinct in baseball and contracts and all that kind of history. Because, like I said, I don't remember anything like this. A player making as much noise about getting an extension of their very, very large and expensive contract and being playing at a level where it was like, yeah, sure, let's just all think about eternity together.
Yeah, you're completely right. I think if he had gone to the Giants, no, the Brewers, no. Like, is there another fan base? Like, and part of it is that Philadelphia is, we are who we are, and that we have been thirsty for a player like Harper forever. A guy who isn't from here, didn't come up with the team, willingly chose to be here, was good after he was here, and has wanted to stay. Like, we've wanted this guy, and now he's here, and he wants us too. It all just feels too perfect, and I think everyone's waiting for the other shoe to drop.
I guess that's what I'm doing. I guess that's my jaded view sneaking in. What's his scheme? Who's he versus? What's happening here? How do we lose?
The other thing to think about, like, how much if the Phillies are kind of delaying this a little bit, and it sure seems like Dombrowski's kind of like, can we not just right now? Let's
take a breather, man. You're 30.
But he doesn't.
Nebraska's wearing like a Hawaiian shirt with or a bathrobe in his hotel, and Bryce is just like pounding on his door, like, "Hey, Dave, I saw you go in there. Like, hey, I talk a little extension stuff." He's like, "Bryce, please, I'm tired. I just worked out that very important and very time-consuming Whit Merrifield deal. Right. Like, just give me a second. I got the Wheeler's extension up next. Like, just get in line." You're not going anywhere anytime soon.
Right,
so
right.
Let's all just chill.
It looks from the outside like the Phillies have all of the leverage here, and really they do. But you also don't want to make Scott Boras and Bryce Harper unhappy and have this continuing to come up over and over and over again to the point where maybe it becomes a distraction. So there's a little bit of leverage on Bryce Harper's part too, and he's also. I think I saw, what is he? He'd be like the 40th highest paid player per average annual value in baseball right now. Like, it's I forget what it is, but it's like 25 million or something like that a season. So like, he's not making much per season. So if he's also thinking, I've sacrificed my opt-outs, right? So he didn't want any opt-outs in the contract. He said, his agent said, we didn't want the lack of opt-outs to penalize him from getting a contract extension later on down the line. But I got to believe the Phillies are thinking, I'm not even sure that anybody was even ever thinking about a contract extension after the 13 years when the opt-outs were put in place. Like, that could not have been something that anyone was thinking about at that point.
I think you're right. His annual value, I hadn't even thought about that, but that he is definitely looking at that. If he can have a bounce back, not even a bounce back, if he can continue doing this season what he was doing last season after he got all of his power back, then the Phillies, I think, will owe him a renegotiation of the remainder of his contract. Because when he says, I want an extension, I think what he really wants is a renegotiation of his remaining years to either he either wants to tack on more years with more money and probably a special services contract, or he wants to renegotiate the early stuff and get more money up front, and he could forget the rest of it or whatever. Because I think the goal of this is for him to get paid like the top first baseman that he is now.
I like the idea that the Phillies have all the leverage because these are negotiations that they never expected to be in. I feel like they just sit down at a table and Bryce Harper and Scott Boras sit across from them and they're like, "Oh, you really got us by the collar here, Dave." And he's like, I'm just trying to eat lunch. What are you talking about?
It's like
we didn't even have a meeting
strangling yourself,
scheduled.
You got us, Dave. You got us.
I'm in Vegas for vacation. Why are you here?
Well, I think one of the, and I want to tie Bryce Harper into the next area of discussion. There was an article, I think it was in the Inquirer, but forgive me if it wasn't, about Trea Turner and talking about his defensive struggles last year. And you forget about with the offensive issues that he had throughout the first 4 months, his defense was a real problem last year for a big
I didn't
part.
Forget
It was
about that.
Yeah, you just focus so much on the strikeouts and the slumps and stuff, but even in the playoffs, that phenomenal defensive double play that he turned aside, there were some errors that he committed in the playoffs that could have turned out to be really harmful, and thankfully they weren't. But all season long, he struggled defensively, and so I'm looking at Trea Turner. I think he'll have a bounce back season defensively for sure. I don't know that he's ever going to go back to being what he was before as a defensive player, and he was never. I don't know if there was ever a time where he was an elite defensive player, but he's always been above league average, but last year definitely well below league average. Who do you think has a higher wins above replacement in 2024? Trea Turner or Bryce Harper? Last year, Trea Turner finished with more wins above replacement than Harper at 3.8. Harper was at 3.3. I think when we think of MVP candidates on this team, though, we would rank Bryce Harper ahead of Trea Turner. That doesn't necessarily mean one has to have a higher wins above replacement than the other, but generally speaking, that's a good indication that one player's had a better season than the other. So what do you guys think? Justin, what do you think? Who finishes with a higher wins above replacement? I guess the question is, who is probably a more likely MVP candidate?
I'm going to say Harper. I think I refer to him as liquid baseball last year because you just, whatever spot you put him in, he just fills comfortably. There's no other way to explain his comfortability at first, having never played there before. So like defensively, he's not playing the hardest position the way Turner is. So, and he's being put there because they feel like he is, especially suited for it at this point. He proved he can play there well enough. Not even just well enough. He looked like he'd been playing there for a while at that point. So I feel like the defense isn't really the concern. And, if we're thinking of these two guys both playing full seasons at the level that is appropriate to their talent, unlike last year, then I think you're just going to get more production out of Bryce Harper. Hopefully you're getting high production out of both of them. And if they are playing at the level I just said, then you are getting high production out of both of them. I just think Harper is just capable. He just seems like he's constantly capable of more, whether it's defensive positions, years on his already long contract, the distance of the home runs he hits. Like it seems like crazy to say, but what if we haven't hit Bryce Harper's ceiling yet? It's fair. There's no evidence that has happened. So I feel like you have to say Harper because I don't see an obvious hole in his game if he's on the field.
It's just so cool that he's on the Phillies. Sorry. It's what I was thinking about when you were talking. I'm just like, oh my God. He's on the Phillies and he has been for a while.
Mm-hmm.
My answer is Harper, but I'll just say Trea Turner to be contrarian because I think despite how great he looked in the World Baseball Classic, it did throw him off. Something happened. Pod person, Freaky Fridays switching, who knows? But something wasn't right. And so hopefully this season, everything is going to start the way it's supposed to start, God willing. And, I think that will do a lot for him. And we'll be able to get the full Trea Turner experience, which includes him playing very well.
Mm-hmm.
Being a good baseball player for the whole season.
Yeah. Imagine if we got the Trea Turner's performance from the World Baseball Classic in like April of the regular season last year. I mean, there's no guarantee that would have happened, but we were just talking about in regards to Merrifield, like how the amount of time a guy plays can wear you down, or it can just change the timing on things, or it makes the longer you play, the more likely it is, a slump's going to pop up here just because or whatever. And the World Baseball Classic really made Turner's season that much longer. So, for whatever reason, I'm not saying that's directly responsible, but it, certainly contributes. I think we can all acknowledge that at this point, as much as we like the WBC. But yeah, I think just imagine that. Imagine that he started his Phillies tenure playing at that level, because that was people would forget about that at that point. But he looked incredible.
Oh man,
he just wasn't playing for the Phillies.
That monster home run. He hit like 2 home runs in a game. Did he hit 3 or so? It was something. It was something bonkers.
Yeah, he was on fire. I remember watching that and all of us being giddy about it because, like, oh my gosh, he's going to win MVP. Like, look at this guy. He's going to win MVP. He's just cranking homers left and right. And, I don't remember him being that streaky when he was with the Nationals or the Dodgers. And I didn't see him play every day. But when he got hot in August, it got like that. Like, he was cranking home runs left and right. I mean, he finished with well over 20 home runs, and he couldn't buy a dinger through the first 4 months of the season. So it was just wild how his season turned around and did a 180 in August and carried it through into September and for most of October until, of course, late in the NLCS when everybody was becoming too homer happy and forgetting about other aspects of the game. But I think Trea Turner, too, is maybe the most forgotten member of this team. Like when we think about the Phillies, we think about Bryce, and I think we think about Schwarber and Castellanos and Bohm and Stott. Sorry. I can't pause that when you're on video. I think he's the most forgotten member of the team. I forget about him. I forget that he's also going to be here. How long did he sign for? Like 11 years? Mm-hmm. Like he's going to be here a really long time. Wow. Like another decade. Trea Turner is going to be here. We think about Bryce Harper being here for a long time, and I forget that Turner is also going to be here well into the time when we are both ready to look for assisted living communities for ourselves. So, I mean, it's unbelievable. It's pretty amazing and that we just kind of forget about him, but I really do think he's kind of a forgotten guy.
I got to say first that the most forgotten Philly is Rodolfo Castro, who I'm pretty sure didn't exist outside of paper. But other than that, I think your point is valid.
Who even is that?
That's right.
I'm pretty sure he was a white-collar crime the Phillies were committing in some capacity.
Yes, I think that's right.
Someone got 5 years for it.
Exactly. Couple other things I did want to mention real quick. The Phillies did make a couple of other moves this week. The Phillies signed David Dahl to a minor league contract. Dahl's still just 29 years old, but he was with the Rockies for a number of years. Looked like he was going to be a really good young player for them, but then encountered all kinds of injuries. So the Phillies are looking to him as outfield depth in the minors. I guess if he has some success in AAA and Jake Cave continues to Jake Cave, you could see him get called up to the majors and he gets a shot as a left-handed guy off the bench, but a ways away from that. But just 29 years old, you take a shot on a guy who showed some promise earlier in his career. And the Phillies...
Jake Cave hasn't done anything. Name has come up a lot.
No, we want him to go away in the worst way, do we not?
Oh my God, are you kidding me? I'm leading that charge.
Yeah.
But I just feel like, not even just with us, I think Jake Cave has come up in like every conversation about the Phillies since they got to camp. And he hasn't done anything. There's like no notable things about Jake Cave. It's just, everyone's like, how do we have less? How do we have less?
Yes.
Jake
How
Cave?
do we have less of this?
I think that's the problem. He hasn't done anything, and that's why everybody wants Jake Cave to move on and find a different left-handed bench bat. But it's again a left-handed bench bat. He's a fifth outfielder. We'll see. But the Phillies bring David Dahl in for that purpose. The Phillies also signed Ricardo Pinto. Remember him? He was with the Phillies in 2017. Yes. Made 25 appearances with the Phillies in 2017. He was playing in the Caribbean Series held in Miami and performed exceedingly well there. So hey,
he won games 1 and 5. He got the wins in that series.
Okay, well,
all right.
Yeah. So where are they now? Ricardo Pinto. They are back in Philadelphia. Yeah. Alec Bohm won his arbitration case. Did you guys talk about that on the last episode? I'm trying to remember.
No, that popped out right after the Merrifield news, and we had just closed up shop again. So that was cool. I mean, was it still that Howard was the last one to win an arbitration case for the Phillies?
Yeah, I think that was only the second time the Phillies have lost an arbitration case. I think they're 2-8. The players are 2-8 against the Phillies in arbitration cases. So yeah, I think you're right. I think Bohm is only the second player. Yeah.
Yeah, Bohm was asked, if sitting in the, and listening to all the stuff the Phillies said, if it hurt his feelings. And he's like, no, you gotta have a thick skin. You can't let that stuff get to you. And my interpretation was, no, it didn't hurt my feelings. I won and they lost.
Right.
Turns out they were wrong.
Turns out that's exactly. It didn't hurt my feelings because everything that they said was wrong.
Right. And I think, Alec Bohm, we all can agree with Bryce Harper playing first base long term. When Alec Bohm is his time under team control probably moves on elsewhere, like Rhys Hoskins has moved on elsewhere. So I don't think there's a lot of worry about not being able to hold on, about this being a long-term problem, going to arbitration and all that kind of stuff. Sometimes you worry about that with a player that you want to keep around for a long time. And I'm not saying Alec Bohm's on his way out or anything like that, but there was not really any worry about that.
Who won't you say is on the way out? Harper's on the decline. Bohm's on his way out.
Turner's not going to be as good as he was. You said that earlier.
You're pulling the shutters down on Citizens Bank
You're
Park.
ready to move on.
I came into last season hooting and hollering about this baseball team, and they slammed the door. So I'm just trying to pump brakes right now. Just trying to pump everybody's brakes a little bit. That's all.
That's what we need. Right
all
now.
right.
Everyone,
That's what we
calm
need.
down. Don't be excited.
Everybody
about
calm
this.
down.
Baseball's back, but shut up about it.
I'm not saying Alec Boehm is a bad player. I'm not saying anything like that. I'm just saying he's not signing a 10-year deal with the team. I don't think that's crazy to say, right?
Yeah, I think Bryce is going to take all the years they could have offered anybody else.
That's
anyway,
right.
So.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. I like Alec Boehm. I think he's fine. All right. It's time for our segment of the show where we take a look back at a Phillies player from the days of yore. And Liz Roscher here is able to take us home with a little "Where Are They Now?" Philly style. So, Liz, go ahead.
Yes. Do you guys want to choose another character from this list? Last week we did Gene Garber. His tagline was, "He's from Lancaster."
All right, yeah. John, why don't you pick? I picked Garber last week, so why don't you?
Yeah, I wanted to talk about the guy who might have wet himself in the outfield. I don't have the list in front of me, but that's the guy I think I would like to zero in on this episode.
Rick
Having Little League
Bazzetti. Let me
flashbacks.
have a look. Find his. Here we go.
Can I share a story real quick?
Yes.
It's going to be embarrassing. Okay, so
Great.
bear with me. So I think it was I was like 11 or 12 or whatever. And I was out in right field. I was way out in right field. And this inning, I had to go to the bathroom. And this inning just kept going. This guy, our pitcher, couldn't get anybody out. No, they must have given up like 15 runs in this inning. We didn't have a 5-run rule like they have in Little League now. Like you can't give up any more than 5 runs in an inning to avoid a situation exactly like I'm going to describe. And I had to go to the bathroom in the worst way. And it just got to a point where I'm standing out in right field, and in like 20 minutes, I'm out there, and I had an accident out in right field. So I knew I was going to be mortified and embarrassed as I ran back to the bench, and I'm like, you can't hide it. There's no hiding it. So, and this is like the third inning. There's still like a whole game to play.
Oh, God.
So I get back, and I have my glove over to protect myself. And then it dawns on me, I had like this whole cooler full of like iced tea.
There you go.
And so I thought to myself, I can save it. I spilled the iced tea all over me. I was like, I spilled my iced tea. Can you believe this? I got all over my pants. Can you look at the iced tea all over my pants?
Oh, my God. John.
No one knew.
One coach just like looks up from his clipboard
Until
and
now.
just go like all over your pants. It's like, wait, what did I just watch? Oh no! I spilled my iced tea all over my pants.
All over. I was thirsty the rest of the game, but it was a small price to pay. Anyway,
Coach is like, I'm just trying to win a ball game here.
What is happening?
I was not a good player at that point. So I don't think I raised an eyebrow. All right, Liz, take it away.
All right. So this is from Where Have You Gone? Philadelphia Phillies by Franz Zimonich. This is Rick Bozzetti. He was born in 1953 in Redding, California. 7-year major league career. He spent 1 year at the Phillies. His major league debut was 1976. All right. To say that Rick Bozzetti was quite a character is a huge understatement. Bo broke into the majors with the 76 Phillies, hitting a respectable .276 in 13 games. He was a player who wore his heart on his sleeve, and the faithful in the stands liked what they saw of this exuberant young player. Those Philadelphia squads of the mid to late 70s were loaded with talent, making it difficult for a young player to break into the lineup. I had come up through the Phillies organization, and I loved it, Bozzetti said. I came from a blue-collar background, and if you really appreciate special things that happen, and you really appreciate the special things that happen to you. Even though I was there for a short time, the fans were very accommodating of me, and I related to them. They saw that I really worked hard. Everybody in the stands thinks that they could play in the major leagues because everybody played baseball. I think I kind of acted like most of them would have acted if they were given a chance. Bozzetti was sent to St. Louis, where he played in just 41 games in 1977. His baseball career seemed to be on the way up with the trade to Toronto, where he played regularly for 2 years in March of '78 in exchange for Tony Bruno. Tom Bruno.
I was gonna say,
With the
hang
Blue
on a
Jays,
second. We gotta dig in on that. Tony Bruno.
yeah, sorry, hold on. Let me have a look. Tom Bruno. Tom
Bruno. Makes sense. Okay.
I do not have a physical book. I have screenshots I took from archive.org.
Fair enough.
With the Blue Jays, Bozzetti became the regular center fielder, hitting .259 in 1978 and .260 the following year, playing in all 162 games. But he broke his arm early in the 1980 season and never got a chance to play regularly again, as a young outfielder named Lloyd Mosby made the most of his opportunity with the Blue Jays. I was the kind of player who needed to play every day to be a benefit to the team, Bozzetti says. It takes a special type of player to come off the bench. I was the kind of player that needed to know that they had confidence in me and that I'd continue to get a chance to play. After being relegated to a back...
Can I time out for just a second? I think every
yes,
player
of course you can.
who wants to play every day will say, I really benefit more if I'm playing every day, playing all the time. I'm not really as good of a bench player as I am playing every single day, making more money, playing every single day of baseball. Anyway, I feel like I've heard that before from players, but sorry, I digress.
After being relegated to a backup role, he played out the string until 1982, when he finished up in 6 games for Oakland. When he played regularly, Bo was the type of player who could hit .260 and was an outstanding outfielder. An interesting kind of guy, Bozzetti was able to literally leave his mark on nearly every major league outfield. Once before a AAA game in Oklahoma City, he relieved himself in the outfield since the players' facilities were far away. Not broken, just far. He continued and expanded his trademark hobby in the majors, urinating in the outfield of every American League stadium and a majority of National League parks, which must be a record of some sort. That's literally written. It must be a record of some sort.
You work with somebody who's just constantly doing this, just peeing all over the place of the workplace. And then the next thing you hear him say is I should really be around more. I should really be here every day. I think we would all benefit more from me, more of me, everywhere, all the time.
I feel like this is a safe space where I can share. I've got this thing that I do. I
got this little quirk.
Hear me out. It might sound strange, but
I picked it up from my dog.
Yeah.
I just sort of pee outdoors everywhere.
At this point, if I'm not in the bathroom, it's too far away.
That's right. He slaves to convenience.
These kids today. I looked up an article on him, and he was, it was after his playing career, and he was doing one of those, the players today, they walk in the door and they make $100,000, so they, they take things for granted and blah blah blah, and not like us back in the day, where
being in the
these kids today, they have toilets and bathrooms with walls that you can't see what they're doing in there. It's oh my god, the luxuries of the modern game. It's too much.
Everywhere you turn nowadays, there's a bathroom, not like when I was.
We all had to pee in our positions. There's no choice. No choice.
We wanted to do it.
We were sharing gloves.
Oh my god! All right. So
this is why I wanted to talk about this guy.
Exactly. So here's a quote from him. All the publicity started when Rick Cerrone mentioned me in a magazine article about flakes of the game. Bozzetti said, it got blown all out of proportion, and people would watch to see if they could catch me.
Oh my god!
I never.
Well, that'll happen.
Can you blame him? I mean,
I know.
This is not on us, man. I'm sorry.
The Rick Bozzetti Pee Patrol would easily have been something at a stadium today. So
can you imagine the vet fan club? What signs do they hold?
Oh my god! I don't want.
I mean, I just thought of 3 of them, but we can't say that stuff on the show anymore.
No, not anymore.
We'll do that on a Patreon episode sometime.
I never did it during a game. Hey, I was 24 years old, and it was all in fun.
I was a child, a young 24-year-old child.
I'd only been driving for 8 years, capable of going to war for the previous 6. I couldn't be held responsible for my inability, or not even my inability, my desire not to urinate in an open field.
Unending desire.
Peeing in the outfield is just what I did. It's not who I was.
That's right. That's right.
I've got some bad news for you, buddy. Your legacy is intact, but not the way you wanted it to be.
I sure hope at the end of the day we judge every man not by their worst moments, but by their best moments.
I mean, this isn't even
Following
really
his
that bad,
baseball-
honestly.
No, it's not. We've heard a lot worse than this.
You consider
We
what
heard so
someone
much
like
worse.
a book full of guys who used to play baseball. You can find a lot worse stories.
My
about
God,
them.
Yeah.
This is tame. Following his baseball career, Rick got involved in the technology field and purchased a company called Team Solutions with locations in Chico, Eureka, and his hometown of Redding, California. You could tell that the writer has no idea what this company does.
I mean, does anyone?
No.
I bet
It's
a
people who
technology-
work there have
No.
no
They
idea
make
what they do.
technology. What are we? It's a technology company. That's pretty straightforward. They
There's
make
like a wall.
technology.
It's got lights and buttons on it.
That's about
Maybe
it.
somebody pulls a lever
This camera,
once a week.
This camera may
Press
have
the
been
buttons
made.
a
It was
lot.
made by
Lots
a
of button
technology
pressing.
company.
Yes.
Yeah.
He has also been very involved in his community, coaching baseball and swimming. A member of the Planning Commission in Shasta County, he is a candidate for the Board of
Swimming
Supervisors.
is the perfect
back in
sport for this
2003.
man.
I know. But said he loved his time with the Phillies organization. I just hope that people will remember me as someone who gave everything he had when he was on the field. That's the way I played the game. I was nuts, but I played hard.
He literally left it all out on the field.
You took out it 1 second too slow. He left every ounce of his competitiveness on the field. He squeezed every drop out of that career.
There's nothing left in the tank.
Oh man, when does spring training start?
I don't know. I don't know. We need the Phillies to report to Clearwater soon. This is how we're filling 10 minutes. This is great.
If you think that I'm going to stop this once spring training and then the season
this
starts,
has to keep going.
I'm doing this until we run out of them. So
All right. Well, we'll do another one next week because we have to keep this rolling. This is a fun segment. So thank you, Liz, for bringing this to our attention.
My
What's the name of
pleasure
this
as
book
always.
again?
It is Philadelphia Phillies. Where have you gone? It's one of those series that they do with all of the teams, and they've got different authors. So you could find it for every team, but you could find this on archive.org and perhaps on eBay.
All righty. Sounds good. All right. Well, let's finish up with some final thoughts here as we wrap up. Justin, final thoughts from you.
I'm just going to use one of the topics we didn't get to that apparently this week Rob Thompson said that Kyle Schwarber will in fact appear in left field for the Philadelphia Phillies this season. And if the signing of Whit Merrifield rocked this city to its core, the idea that Kyle Schwarber will ever touch outfield grass with his cleats again is going to a maw will open up and swallow the city whole. I'll admit, I was like, yeah, Schwarber's done in the outfield, right? Like they said Harper is playing first and Schwarber will be the DH. Like that just makes sense. Yeah, moving forward. And then to see Thompson say that was just like, oh, right. They are probably going to give some guys some days off.
Yeah, some days off. And it's not like he can't play left field ever
Right.
again.
We
It's
just
just that he
don't want
shouldn't
him
play
to.
left field
Right.
ever again.
Not a lot, sure.
Right.
And again, this is all very normal. But
That's right.
I got to admit that when I saw it, I was like, what?
Yeah.
You're right. Okay.
No, I think we have gotten into the habit of thinking about this Phillies team as like video game Phillies. Like, we could set this lineup, and in a video game, you don't ever have to put Schwarber out in left field. You don't ever have to give Bryce Harper a day off first base. You don't ever have to do anything like that. That's just not the case. That's why you saw so much Jake Cave a year ago, because you do have to give guys days off, and you do have to put that gray-bearded guy out in left field every once in a while and let him run around and give Nick Castellanos a day off and right every once in a while. Like there's a reason you have Garrett Stubbs, right? Because JT Realmuto can't play every day. So, yeah, Schwarber will play some left field. We'll see if it's...
You
How
mentioned
much?
Stubbs gets to play 3 afternoons a year
Yep.
because JT Realmuto is human as much as he fights that idea.
That's right.
Did we
Liz,
want
final thoughts.
My final thought is going to be, all right, would we rather the Jake Cave discourse, or do we want to go back to the Garrett Stubbs discourse of the post season last year? Because everyone was like,
you
he
mean,
is the worst thing to
the
ever
idea
happen
that
to
they
the
have to
Phillies
improve
since the
it.
beginning. Yep.
Okay.
Let's improve it.
Yeah.
Backup catcher. That will surely fix all of our problems.
Listen, if you try to get rid of Garrett Stubbs, I mean, good luck.
Yeah.
Like there's
I don't think
there's a
he's
difference
leaving no
there.
matter what.
No.
Come on, yeah, when they release him, he will not be gone. He
No.
will hide out like a rat in the locker room with
Special assistant to the general manager.
yeah. If he has to live in like a locker with that empty beer case 12 pack on his head, like he'll do
Pretending
that.
to
He'll
be
do
a
that.
table.
He'll do that. Yeah. I mean, I don't know what his familial ties are, where he's tied down to, but I really do feel like he'll leave whatever is somewhere else and just camp out at Citizens Bank Park during every summer until.
He's
It's
the
Philadelphia.
Phillies
It's the Phillies.
roadie.
Philadelphia.
That's his family.
Yeah,
He just got off a train one day, and like midway through last season, Dave Dombrowski was like, "Did we sign that guy?
He's still here.
Where did he come
Yeah,
from?
he's just the
It's like,
Phillies
the guy in Office
uninvited
Space.
roadie.
He just crawled out of the tarp when we at the first rain delay, and I don't know. He's been here ever since.
If we stop paying him, maybe he'll stop showing up.
No, we
No.
did stop. I don't
That's
think
right.
he has been paid.
No, it's like there's this whole. My dad mentioned the Cameron Crowe movie, Almost Famous, earlier today. Now I'm just imagining Garrett Stubbs following the Phillies around the country.
Yeah.
Like he's one of their.
Kate Hudson. Yeah.
Like he's Kate, or like he's
Murphy.
Kate Hudson or Patrick
Right.
Fugit. You know, one of them just
That's
like
the other case.
trying to write a story about the Phillies.
Who would have thought in 2023 we would feel such wonderful feelings about all these individual members of the Phillies, but also still be talking about David Buchanan and Ricardo Pinto?
How are we doing that?
It's truly what's old is new again, and those who do not study history are doomed to repeat it or re-sign the players from your history. That portion of it that was doomed anyway.
Hey, I've got to say one more additional final thought that you're starting to see this theme of change kind of emerge from these Phillies. I think as people in year 3 of this competitive era, where you heard Zach Wheeler talking about how much the Phillies have changed since even he signed in like 2020 or so, and Buchanan, Alex Coffey wrote a profile on him that I think was today, where he talked about the changes in the organization from 2016 to today, and you know it's easy to feel the difference between, hey, we're a playoff team, and Jared Williams.
Yeah,
What's his
maybe
name?
there might have been
Yeah.
that guy. I don't know.
He's starting again today. Whatever. I think you're just starting to see that kind of emerge as this theme this year, and you know it is kind of healthy to look back and be like, man, there has been. Well, I would say a lot of progress was made, but really what it was no progress for a long time, and then a lot of progress packed into a small amount of time. But even so, it's it's something that it like you said, doomed to repeat history. Well, it's nice to see the breaking of the many failure cycles that the Phillies were trapped in for a long time. So and we talked about this on Friday, but it is nice to see that the Phillies have made themselves an organization that the evidence of change is there, and that the players have recognized it, and it has become a destination that players they want to be there.
Yeah, and I think
Jerome.
Jerome Williams, thank you, good one, good
Jerome
pull,
Williams.
Elizabeth.
Thank you.
And so much of that is Dave Dombrowski, just the professionalism and the competency that he brought to the organization, to the point where it's filtered all through the minor league system, and now you're actually seeing players develop, and the major league team have this camaraderie, and the city's married to it. I really do think that comes down to Dombrowski and John Middleton letting him cook, and that's where a lot of this has come from. But we should do a deeper dive into this, because I think it's a really interesting thing to talk about, the difference between those teams and this team, and it probably does all come back to the Dombrowski decision to come here to Philadelphia. But we can tackle that on another episode of the podcast. In the meantime, folks, that's going to do it for this episode of Hittin' Season. A couple different places I want to remind you about. Again, you can find links to all these different things in the show notes on our YouTube and on our podcast page. Hittinseason.com, BillyPenn.com/HittinSeason is our Billy Penn landing page. It's where you can find all of our posts that go along with the podcast. You can check out our Hittin' Season Patreon, where we have some bonus podcasts for you there. That's at patreon.com/HittinSeason. And of course, read all of Liz's work at Yahoo Sports, sports.yahoo.com, and Justin over at Baseball Prospectus, baseballprospectus.com, and of course, my stuff at The Good Fight as well. Thanks everybody for tuning in. We'll talk to you next time right here on Hittin' Season.